how's it going? Hootius bootius and whatnot. And I have no idea what kind of stupid intro that was, but enjoy that. Moving on. If y'all haven't done so already, become a wolf by liking and subscribing. Let's jump right back into the tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about Stonewood, and I've tested out the pathing by using an ear splitter before I placed some of the traps on some of these tunnels. So I apologize for my pre-building tunnels and or removing some of these items that I'm going to be modifying after a few tests, possibly. But as of now, I've tested it several times during a war game and it works perfectly. I do not like tire drops. After testing several war games, I've determined I do not like tire drops there, and I just want to fill this entire area with these cool ceiling electric zappies is what they're called. That's clearly what Fortnite wanted them to be called, was ceiling zappies. And and some of the basic things I was doing for testing was just throwing if you're high enough level, you could basically complete Stonewood with just wooden floor spikes and wooden everything. It's super simple, but for my build, I am currently trying to build it for war games, and therefore during the war games the enemies are twine level. So this is a home base. Well, actually, the main home base gets attacked from a different direction. So this isn't really home base build. This is more endurance and war games build. As far as I know, some of the earlier waves of people's Stonewood get hit by this area, but and you'll still need to build it. And this is some of the block off you're gonna need for this epic build. And the reason why you'll need this block off right here is for war games. Behind the walls over there, during war games, sometimes the spawn will spawn right there in that cave area. And if you don't have like some kind of wall or something there, even if the wall's there, they still try to detour. Like I may remove this wall here that has a sound wall on it and move the sound wall, just so maybe they'll come here sooner. But during war games and Stonewood, sometimes endurance, there's a propane wave, and you'll have to have a way to encounter that, because they spawn down there and they'll spawn in this little box, and hopefully they'll come right for our little trap tunnel. I mean, some of the block off you may need is this. You may want to use something more than wood. That's clearly something I need to tear down from an old build, built probably 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, and it's just sound wall and a bunch of wooden floors at first, until we try to mess up their CC counter and stuff like that. Later on during the tunnel, we're going to be pushing them into trap boxes that severely damages them with freeze traps, and yeah, super fun. And the sound wall we're going to be using, you're going to be wanting to use a health. Like I want to use effect duration, but that doesn't matter. You need health on your sound wall right here. Use the stats I use is that yeah, just the normal reload for that one. But yeah, just make sure it's a health, because some of the propane may get detonated by our ceiling electrics, because we do have ceiling electrics like all over this area, and that's the main thing. We're going to be killing them for Stonewood endurances, which are super simple. But this is a super simple damage overkill for Wargames, and Wargames always gets hit on this one for the first wave. It's get hit every time, so and as far as I know, it's the first one that gets hit. And the wall arts we're going to be using are that. The ceiling electrics are just another high crit ceiling electrics, and the wall dynamo and stuff are most of these traps I have are 144, and that's why it's a high damage build. If you don't have 144s, you may need to add a little more damage to places as you see fit. I'm trying to alternate some of the see the wall dynamos take away some of the CC counter, but when they get thrown in this box, they're usually dead before they come out of it. If it's not, it's usually a smasher that usually dies at the end of the tunnel. And I use two different ones. I use just because it's a slightly different timing. I know it doesn't 100% matter. I should probably just use two of the super crit ones, but I just like a different timing on my wall dynamos. And then we're just going to be lining this entire area with some lovely 144 wall darts. Yeah, and of course the ceiling is just going to be even with this. If you want, you can add extra tiles, but I'm trying to minimize my build limit because I'm a overbuilder. I'm pretty sure later on in this thing I'll overbuild one of these amps, and or at the end of this you can just go crazy with this. You have several extra structures in Stonewood. Stonewood's a pretty fun build to build. Yeah, and you can just add ceiling zappers or ceiling electrics to this. Just the same ones we used all in the tunnel, which it does pretty good damage. I use just ones with high crit. I think it's 2 crit damage and 1 crit rating. And this is the layout of the ceilings that are 2 tiles off the ground. And that'll keep the propane, if the propane does detonate, from destroying parts of your tunnel. But if your husks have exploding death bursts on for Wargames, then 2 tiles still somewhat get damaged, I believe. So, yeah, but yeah, just be aware of that. And some of the, I'm thinking this needs a little more block off on the block off. Like I'm thinking that wall just isn't gonna cut it. And I'm still thinking they might run around, but I'll do a few tests before bed, and I'll get this. I'll definitely make sure this is correct. And some of the things I'm going to be doing later on probably is throwing some more cones in there, and or blocking it off a little better. And this is also a preset for the pathing for my other amplifier. So and hopefully that should and all that should right there just keep the enemies from even wanting to come this direction, hopefully. But if I'm wrong, I surely I wouldn't be wrong about anything, like XP wise or whatever. Yeah, moving on. I don't think we need this wall right there. We can remove that wall, and maybe that wall later on. But I'm thinking that later on we're probably gonna add like wall darts to that wall, and if they still try to break through this, I'm gonna have to add more block off to there, because that area isn't even used really, and or add you may add some traps to this side, because if something breaks through, they'll definitely come for these walls. As of current, I'm gonna save structures and just play it as it goes and keep an eye on it. But if I do have a problem with that area there, I'll add just some wooden traps and that'll help for Stonewood endurances. Yeah, endurances. and then we're just gonna pepper, like if you see a wall, here, we're gonna need a little extra damage for a smasher, and also helps to do a little more damage and slow the smasher down just slightly. You may want to use a little tar trap. Yeah, tar pit right here. And the smasher usually always goes for that center wall. And you can add some other traps there. But mostly the ceiling electrics should nuke the smasher down, and the tunnel should nuke the smasher down good enough. I want to put a ceiling like too close to the ground here, but then the chances of a propane messing it up is just annoying. And plus, I like to sit there and watch the enemies. So if I put a low ceiling, I can't even see watch them. So yeah, and you can add stuff here if you wanted, like a spike or whatever. Like if you don't have max level traps, and you are in Stonewood right now, you'll just have to use whatever traps you have. Just try to slow them down in this tunnel, and you should be fine. The pathing is on this amplifier is just straightforward, and they always come that way if you try to detour them. Sometimes, unlike a close range, Wargames doesn't work too good with this amp, but it does work if you're not trying to away from keyboard. Your close quarters one. As you're aware, the close quarters spawns like basically right here, right at this wall, and it's just it does work, and you might need a little more block offs. And stay tuned. I'll show you more of the block off at the end. And the amplifier, of course, the Homebase, just for safety reasons, just cover the whole thing in a full metal jacket. And yeah. And this is a little view of some of the block off, more of the block off, and that you'll definitely need, like in the over there, and possibly keep an eye on those walls. That whole thing right there, you can throw an extra block off there if you felt like it, and just remove it later on if you're like, oh my gosh, I have way too many structures. I'm sure you'll find a couple of random spots, like some of those tiles I'm not using right now. The reason why I placed them is I may throw a trap on them later on, like if I need to. But I probably should do it anyway. But this I tested this several times as if it was built before I just changed some stuff. So, and these changes, I believe, should help it out drastically, because yeah, I'm hoping they'll stop detouring or stop trying. It was like maybe one or two spawns that was trying to come through that other side over there, and the propane was a little bit. If you don't have the timing right on certain traps, it doesn't work correctly. If you have that problem, just switch out your sound walls with a different timing sound wall, and you may find that the propane, by the time they get here, the propane's not even in their hand at all, which is what we're trying to do with the sound walls. And we're just going to also damage them here. You can add some wall, like I want to use the wall dynamo, but it just takes away on their CC counter. And if I want to mess up their CC counter, I want to mess up their CC counter inside of our trap tunnel. And there's several different trap boxes, like we got 3 or 4 of them that's going to mess up their CC counter severely. And by the end of the tunnel, we're not even going to be able to ear split them to stun them once they get CC countered for 2 minutes. It takes them 2 minutes before the CC counter resets after their 5th CC counter. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, they're gonna go in here and leave a window on that one wall. And the sound, yeah, we're just gonna push them 3 blocks. You usually want a wall launcher with about 3 impact. I used one with the extra building health. That's because it's the only one I had with 3 impact, and I just felt like it needed building health. But I probably should have used actually building heal, like and or duration. I just used the same ones over here. You needed a 1 or 2 impact to knock them into this thing. I used the 2 impact because the 2 impact has a little more impact for smashers, and the higher level smashers are the more impact you'll need to give them a little smacky smack. Moving on, the freeze trap that I'm using is a heal trap, and of course the reason why I'm trying to use heal instead of effect duration is because the heal, the propane is still just stupid. Yeah, anyone who's played has been like, why is this propane being annoying? So yeah, just use one with heal on it, and it should nuke them down before the propane gets knocked off anyway, unless they're beside it, and that's basically what happens. They set their propane off next to the trap box, and yeah, and just, yeah, trap boxes are just alternating dynamos, left, right. I use different timings with different, yeah, with the window there, with the wall dart, and of course the impacts on the here is it's just going to be on the wall that's right next to the cliff, and we're just going to push them to the north, and the ceiling electrics are going to nuke them down, smack them around, and knock them down to the ground, very simply, especially on a Stonewood endurance, if that's what we're trying to do. But this is basically built for Wargames, so it would definitely 100% work for every single wave of your endurance, if if that was possible. If you had an endurance that was like, we're gonna have a 30 wave endurance on one amplifier, how fun would that be? You know. But regarding that, just fill this entire area with ceiling electrics. The 2 crits, the same ones we used in this tunnel. The tire drops ain't 100% necessary. You can use them. They do crit a lot more than the ceiling electrics, but I don't like them. And plus, to have them max crit 3 tiles off the ground. Final look at the block off in the back here that you'll need is on the north ramp area. You'll need 1 or 2 block off walls, and on the flooring underneath the block off you'll need an angled wall like so. And some of the other little tiny block off is a cone facing here, and I left this area blank for defenders if I ever have a daily quest or whatever I need for the daily V-Bucks or whatnot. I can put them in that box, and yeah. And that is my home base rebuild that I'm currently working on. I really hope y'all enjoyed today's little ditty. If y'all did, become a wolf by liking and subscribing, and I'll post another video about B possibly if y'all enjoy this, and see ya.